And U.S. corporations are happily involved with accepting drug money.
Of course.
That's why, we were hired, my partner and I were hired by the governors of Colombia and the European Union in tobacco cases. So Philip Morris, for example, was sued for money laundering. Okay. And Philip Morris settled. They didn't describe it as a money laundering. What they settled to was that they were going to work on anti-counterfeiting and black market activity. But they were knowingly involved, actively involved with working with drug traffickers. In fact, the Philip Morris executives did fly into Barquisimeto, Venezuela. They'd hire an armored car. So then they'd go to La Frontera, the border with Colombia. They'd pay off the border police so that they could cross in without getting their passport stamped. And they went to Maicao. And in Maicao, they met with a Colombian senator, Santander López Sierra, who was known in Colombia at the time as the Marlboro Man, El Hombre Marlboro. Why? Because Philip Morris had actually sent a film crew to Colombia to film this guy. He was another, Sandia con patas. He's otro, this fat guy God help the poor horse that he got on. But they filmed him dressed up in cowboy gear and writing, the Marlboro Man commercial. That's why I call him El Hombre Marlboro. Well, he also was, he's a criminal. He was involved with the murders of 24, the locals. So he was a bad guy. And yet here's these Philip Morris executives meeting with him, and they literally gave him bags of cash and third-party checks and U.S. postal money orders. And we ultimately got access to all that finance because, ironically, this is, God has a sense of humor. The very first job BERG Associates had was doing the investigation of the Russian money laundering case from Bank of New York. Mm-hmm. And in the course of that, we got a hold of all these Russian bank records. And, where was Philip Morris depositing all this cash, this, black market money? In the Russian bank. So we actually had the bank records. But my point was these corporations are knowingly involved with criminal organizations. And it's not just Philip Morris, Japan Tobacco, British American Tobacco, all the liquor companies, Diageo, major U.S. corporations. I may have told you this story before, but we got called by the security director for John Deere. So John Deere makes all the tractors and such things.
The engine factory, the tractors. The tractor factory, right? The green one.
Yeah, the green one. Okay. So we went to, it's on the border of Iowa, Illinois, to meet with the security director. And we got there, and here was his concern. He goes, we got this customer in Colombia, but he's paying us with checks drawn on a bank in Minneapolis. And they're going, yeah, that's a little odd. And so it turned out what they were are what's known as third-party checks, because back in the 1990s, the Colombian cartels were sending. They go to Colombian families and say, "Hey, want a vacation at Disney World in Orlando, Florida?" And the people go, "Do we got to pay?" No, we cover your expenses. All you have to do is open 5 bank accounts while you're there. And people said, "That's it?" Of course. So these families would go up, mother, father, and then they'd go out. And back then, the United States was not requiring all this different ID to open bank accounts. So these guys, husband and wife, go out and open a bank account. And you know how it is with Latino names. You've got the matronym and the patronym. So the mother's name and the father's name. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm Juan Rodriguez Sanchez, I open an account with Juan Rodriguez Sanchez. Then I open one with Juan Sanchez, and then Juan Rodriguez, and then Juan Sanchez. So before long, I've got 5 different bank accounts, with sort of 5 different names. And when you open a bank account, they give you starter checks. So these guys would make like a $50 deposit. And the cartels had given them money. Here's your cash. You open each account with $50. Okay. Then they'd go back to Colombia and they turn over these checkbooks that they had already signed, hadn't filled them out. Well, once those accounts are open, then comes the pitufos, the Smurfs. So the drug cartels have these guys and gals. Their job every day is get up in the morning, go to the stash house, pick up bags of cash, and go to these different banks and make deposits, through the drop box. $500, $1,000, not a lot, but do it like every day, 6 days a week. After a while, those amounts build up. So here's this guy in Colombia. He wants to buy a tractor. If he goes to buy a tractor with the official exchange rate, and he's got to pay for it in dollars, he's going to have to pay 10 pesos to buy $1. But the money brokers for the cartels, they go, hey, we make you a deal. We'll only charge you 7 to 1. So your $1 will buy, 7 pesos will buy $1. That way you're going to save 3 pesos. So, only crazy people would not follow up on that deal. And so that's essentially what was this guy had third-party checks that were being drawn through a bank in Minnesota that were being used to pay for this tractor. And so we explained to the security director at John Deere what the deal was. He goes, "No, that's bad." So he went and briefed the president of John Deere. The president of John Deere said, "Not my problem."
Money's money. Yeah.
Money's money. Hey, not my problem.
And that's the exactly same thinking of the owners of the banks where the accounts are being opened and on and on, right?
Yeah. So this is why I say that, a lot of times we like to blame the cartels, the drug traffickers in Mexico and Colombia. Yeah, they're bad guys.
Sure.
But we ignore the other bad guys that are the corporate types, both in the United States and in Europe and in Asia, who are enabling all this, making it possible.
It explains why a assault rifle made in Swaziland is killing people in a Brazilian land.
Yeah. So it's just the corruption's across the board. I will say this, that as we did these investigations overseas, we dealt with a lot of lawyers, and we had actual informants, guys that had spent time in jail. We have one fellow is a member of the Russian mob, one of the clans. Another was a Sinaloa cartel guy. Another was a Cali cartel guy. And I must say, we found all of the criminals to be far more honorable people than any of the lawyers. The lawyers were god awful. Couldn't trust them. They'd lie at any chance. At least with the criminals.
Yeah.
What they told you, they were men of their word. You go to the bank on it. Because in their world, if you did that kind of lying and you tried to pull something over somebody, you get killed. Yeah. You get killed. So they knew what the stakes were. That's why I think Shakespeare wrote "Kill all the lawyers." That would.
There's that joke. What's 10,000 lawyers in the deep sea, right? In the United States.
A good start.